Okay, I'm trying something a wee bit different with the mic today. I'm not going to talk much, but I will pull over and then I'll talk. But I'm just wanted to say hi and just actually do a wee test on the mic now to see how it sounds, and I'll listen to that when I get back. But I'm going to try and just shut up for most of this ride until I pull over. Enjoy. So unfortunately there's a little bit of a hair over us now. My visor's misting up a bit and I'm just trying to keep the lens clean. I've got the remote mic in my snooty, wrapped up in that. That was a wee tip I saw from God, his name's just left me. I'm not very good at remembering other people's channels' names, terrible I know. Anyway, saw him do it, he's got the same setup. Thought I'd give it a wee bash. So I'm not going to say any more till I get to the place I'm going to stop. And they'll let me analyse the wind noise and the bike noise and all that stuff. Right, so I have been experimenting with the voice control on this DJI with the mic 2, the remote mic, and I am finding that if I slow my speech down a bit and I speak a bit softer, it works really well. It's working a lot better, and if you ask it to take a photograph, it does that no problem. So the photographs that I've taken today are all from this camera and me just asking it to take a photo, and that works really well. But I just really wanted to give this bike a wee run, and slightly different route today, and try out the camera commands. Now, I have noticed that by slowing down my commands and speaking softer, I'm having a lot more success. So anyway, on to the VFR1200. I've had a love affair with these bikes for well over 14 years now in the 1200 format, and the reason for that is I bought a brand new one in 2010 and had it for about 3 years. Loved it, had one of my best 500-mile days on it. Went away up north. I remember stopping off at Tom and Tool on the way back and getting off it and sitting on a rock. And I remember just having that thought, Jesus, you know, it's got a shaft drive, you know, because it's so unobtrusive. It really is a great shaft drive. You know, I don't know what went wrong with this bike. It really has not really been popular with well, with the sort of VFR party in lots of ways. When it came out, it replaced the 800 VTEC, and a lot of the Honda VFR owners, they were hoping to get a 1000cc super bike. A lot of people were begging for that kind of bike to be released, and at the same time you had the Pan-European disappeared, the Blackbird had already disappeared, so a lot of people were kind of confused to what this bike was. The VFR owners were disappointed because it wasn't the performance bike they thought it was going to be. The Pan-Europeans rejected it because obviously, even though it had a shaft drive, it was no way a replacement for a Pan. And the Fireblade owners, the Blackbird owners just said, well, it's got a shaft drive, so even replacing a Blackbird. So there was lots of different things going on. Honda, when they released it, they knew what they were doing. I mean, they were releasing what they thought was a sports with a capital S bike / little tourer. You know, they could see that it was a bike that, you know, on a good day could do 300 kilometres shaft drive, very clean at the back. You know, very good handling for the size of bike it is. Excellent power. Remember, it's 169 brake horsepower. It could still probably do about 170 mile an hour on a good day. It really is a fast bike. It's very difficult to keep it within the speed limits because it is such a fast bike. And I loved it. And I when I sold mine, because I had a Pan-European and at the same time, and I was always using the Pan, and this was just getting left in the garage. So I just thought, right, I'd be better swapping it for a Fireblade or something if I'm only going to take it out occasionally. And that was my logic, and I bought a Fireblade. And that was the biggest mistake I ever made. Not because the Fireblade wasn't a good bike, but just because, you know, this suited me much more, you know. These bikes and my ZZR, they're built for people who are 6 foot, people who have got 32, 33 inside legs, got good reach. They're just perfect ergonomics for somebody like me. And I still find it very comfortable, even without the not having bar risers. I still find it really, really enjoyable. I'd like to repeat that 500-mile day. That was 14 years ago I did that, so I was much younger. I was 46 then, so I was a much younger man and probably a lot more agile. I think it's just a fantastic bike, and when I sold that bike, I attempted to try and buy it back, and I think that bike's done, you know, somewhere in the region of 30,000-40,000 miles now. It's still on the road, and it was a great bike. And then I bought another one in 2020, and I ended up having a clear out. I had a Gold Wing, I had the VFR, I had the Royal Enfield. I was needing to tidy things up. I had a reason for doing it, and I was trying to hold on to the VFR, but to make the deal work, I had to let all three go. So when this one came along and it had, you know, just over 8,000 miles on the clock, it was one owner, it was very nice condition, very clean, you know, needs very little to make it absolutely mint, and I love having it back in my garage again. I told myself that I wasn't going to buy the luggage again. I've managed to put it all together. I've got it in the garage waiting to go on. So I've got an original, a brand new OEM back rack. I've got the moving plate. I've got panniers that are almost new looking. I've got two top boxes actually. One's brand new. I've managed to find the original screen, which I managed to pick up for a tenner, and it had never been used. The guy was clearing out his dad's garage, and his dad had died, and he said that he reckoned that his dad took it off the bike when he first bought it. So it had never been used, it was brand new, so I managed to get that, and I've still got the original visor brand new in a kit ready to be fitted to that. So I might be tempted to put the original screen back on, and I'm also then going to put the luggage on. The one good thing about this bike was it's slightly later model than the one I had before, so the petrol tank's slightly bigger, by half a litre, and it's got traction control. This is one of the gripes of this bike, because it only, when it first came out, it had an 18.5 litre tank. I don't know what Honda were thinking about. I understand the design brief, they were trying to make it sporty, but they could have made the tank a little bit bigger. But in their briefing, as far as they were concerned, they were, you know, 300 kilometres was fine for them. That's all they cared about. They felt that that was a good range for the bike. You know, balancing it up against the performance of the bike. You know, you could see where they thought it made a lot of sense, but it didn't fit into what people were expecting, and so it got rejected. And of course, this model is the first model that introduced the DCT, which at that time was really not that popular anyway, and Honda were struggling to sell that concept at the start, even though it's absolutely brilliant. But this was the first bike to sort of demonstrate the DCT. It's got a wonderful growl that comes up sort of as you get towards 5,000 RPM, depending on the gear. It can be a little bit you know, less smooth when it's in first and second gear and you're really turtling in the town. You can get yourself around that, and you sort of learn how to sort of ride it so that it's not too bad. That's its only sort of gripe, I would say, whether it's the gearing or the fuel injection, but it isn't overly smooth. It can be a little bit jerky, but this one is certainly better than what my original one was. But this is a gentleman's sports tourer, without a doubt, and I think it's a fantastic looking bike too. I think that even today it looks like it belongs in a modern motorcycle world. It's got remarkable smooth fairings, and okay, the downside of that, it's a pain in the arse to get them off, but the upside is it does look really quite modern still today. It unfortunately got the shortest run of all the VFRs, been introduced in 2010 and basically killed off in 2016. There's a community out there who absolutely love it and really appreciate the sort of mixture of performance and the ability just to put bags on. The side bags, you know, really clever. They don't need any brackets, they just hook on, and I think they were one of the first ones to do it like that. I always find the fuel consumption around about 150 miles you would get a fuel light, and I was quite confident that you probably could get at least 180 miles out the tank. So you can see where Honda were going with a 300 kilometres. They felt that they had the right design brief. I'm really happy to have it back in my garage, and this time I'm hoping that there is no chance that this one will go anywhere, and I will hopefully add to those miles. I really am determined that this time this bike stays. This was my favourite sort of big sports tourer, and the ZZR was my brother's favourite sports tourer, and there's a bit of history there. We've been out a few times way back in the day when I had my first one, and he was on the ZZR, he's still got now, and I was on my original VFR. I don't find this a heavy bike. People say it's a heavy bike. I don't find this a heavy bike, but then I'm used to riding a lot heavier. I think it's time to say goodbye. Take care, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.